Hello adventurers and welcome back to my channel. Today we're out at the Lake Mead recreation area and we're actually going to be going to the historic railroad tunnel trail. I am so hype about this. I've been on it once before and it was absolutely amazing, but today is a beautiful day, so I thought what better time to get out and show you guys. So let's go. Now a little note before we go, we are entering this trail. There are 5 different distinct tunnels. There's also a gate that goes through, and if you get here before sunset you can go all the way over to where Hoover Dam is. Now my favorite thing about this particular trail are the tunnels themselves. These things were actually cut through the mountain in order to bring the railroad in when they were constructing the dam. So all of this was made to order, so to speak, but now we get to go through and actually see what it looks like. Now at one point in time when the Hoover Dam was first constructed, this was just a barren area. There was no industry here whatsoever, and they had to bring in every single business aspect to make the dam come true. And one of those things was that they would have to move these massive pieces of equipment, and they really didn't have infrastructure to do so. So they blasted out tunnels like these and laid track very similar to this right here, and they would bring things from this area, which is a more flat staging area, over to the dam, which was in the midst of all of the mountains. And that's how they moved things. So it's super cool that now they've turned this into a historic site that we can actually go and get the feel of. But enough about that, let's get on the trail. We have some walking to do. Now this is not one of those trails you're going to want to walk when it's super hot. Today it's 65 degrees. This is perfect. Winter time doing this trail is the best time in my opinion. Now doing this hike at any given time, they do recommend that you bring at least 1 gallon of water per person if you're going to do the entirety, because it gets hot here. It gets really hot here. In fact, this trail actually closes at some point during the year because of the heat. So we're going to want to remember that as we kind of kick off. I did bring water today and we are ready to go. Now I will say this, it says here do not hike between June and September, and I would have to agree. It is hot here at that time and way too hot to be able to do this trail. But also something else that has changed since the last time I was here. Last time this was accompanied by a rattlesnake sign, and today it seems to be missing. So either the snakes have gotten better, which I'm doubtful, or they're mostly out during these months when they're already telling you do not hike. I don't know. But we're still gonna be looking around. Sneaky snakes, ooh. And just so you know, this looks very apocalyptic, like zombies could be held back by this gate. I'm just saying. In fact, there's an ongoing theme around Vegas where some of the newer attractions are all like Walking Dead themed. That fits right in, just saying. But that isn't about what this trail is. This trail is actually a historic trail that is not fictitious, and it is pretty awesome. And we're getting to the actual opening stretch before we get to the first tunnel. Now here we find out a little bit more about this. Actually, at one point, this was a 30-mile network of railroads, and they were built in 1931. This is what it would have looked like as they were hauling things down toward the dam. It's pretty interesting because it says here that this train actually ran 24 hours a day and was constantly carrying either gravel, supplies, or machinery to the dam site. Now I did do a full video over the Hoover Dam, and I encourage you guys to go check that out for a little bit more of the backstory of the construction and why it was actually put into place. But by the construction of the dam, it actually tamed the Colorado River and created a smaller portion coming out toward the south, toward Arizona. But also it created Lake Mead, which we'll have a few better viewpoints of in just a few minutes. This place is absolutely amazing, and the more that you look around, the more you can still see the influences of the railroad even today, all these years later, almost 100 years later. Okay, at this point there is actually a little map that shows us kind of what the orientation is, but also that there is actually a little turning point right here. So if we wanted to do a different kind of adventure, we could. This would take us up to the casino at the top of the hill. But this is kind of a steep one, so I definitely would say if you're coming up this one, to have a little bit of grit and grip with you. In fact, you can see here she's actually taking this one, and it has quite the little incline going up in comparison to this flatter one, but definitely kind of cool because you get a different view. And then also there's some signs along the way that tell you a little bit more. But there's a couple other facts on here also. Like for example, if we were to go all the way to the Memorial Bridge, it's about 3.1 miles from here. And then also the tunnels on this trail actually have bats in them. That's kind of cool. Now I will say I did not see any bats last time I was here, and I don't expect to see them today, but if we did, that'd be super cool. But if we do, we don't mess with them. We're supposed to leave them in their natural habitat and just kind of leave them be. So yeah, but there's one more sign that I want to show you, and then we're going to go right around this corner to our first tunnel. It really is true that all the places that we visit are somehow interconnected, and here you can actually see how they are connected. This is talking about the different rock formations that are available in this particular section of the world and what creates them, and then also the colors themselves. And you can see here that there are several different things that are included in this, including like a hoodoo, but it looks a little different than the hoodoos we've seen in New Mexico. And then there's also a rock formation that looks like a balanced rock. They do have a balanced rock over at Valley of Fire also, so that's kind of neat. And again, I'm not going super in depth on those because I want you to come here and see them, but just giving you the visual of what is available on the trail is very important. Normally whenever we come out to places like this, we may be hiking for quite some distance and there are no interpretive signs whatsoever, but this one definitely wants to talk to you and tell you the story of this area, and I love that. So now we are off to round this corner and see the tunnels. Speaking of snakes, I knew we were eventually going to find this sign right here. This is about all the different wildlife in the area, and you can find that they actually have bighorn sheep here also. Yeah, I've never actually seen one out here, but I have actually seen the results of them being here, so maybe. Now, I'm not going to say you're only going to encounter those in the evening time. However, typically, whenever they have been seen out in this area, they have been seen in the evening time. So, kind of keep your eyes open, and we'll see if we see one today. Also, we will be far out of here and gone before evening time because of the coyotes. Just saying. Now imagine, if you will, this used to be connected. This was one big mountain. It was all part of this set of mountains. But then they had to find a way for the railroad to actually fit through. So they blasted out areas like this. And they're wide enough for not only the track, but the train, and to be able to have a little bit of maneuverability around them. This thing is huge. Of course, this is not the tunnel. This is just the blast path. The tunnel is still right up here, just a little bit. I know it's a tease, but you have to actually put in a little work on this one to get to the good stuff. And I can see it now. Oh, I'm excited. I'm so excited. The first time that I saw these, I was just in awe of how large they were. And some things don't change. Still in awe, still in awe. But before we get there, I wanted to show you all this. We discovered this the first time that we came down here, and these are huge chunks of cement. But they are also considered to be part of the boneyard of the Hoover Dam. These were actually pieces that were a part of that process. Isn't this awesome? You're looking at a piece of 100-year-old history in this little culvert area right here. Now at each one of the stops along the way, you will find a sign similar to this with a different perspective and viewpoint. It shows you what you can see from the area you're standing in. And it shows all of the different mountains and then also the islands that are in Lake Mead. Now we learned at the Hoover Dam that the white ring around Lake Mead is actually called the bathtub ring. And it's formed by calcification and very hard minerals in the water. In fact, it's very bad for the machinery of the Hoover Dam, so they had to make some changes. But by seeing it kind of in this particular landscape, it is awesome because it is a very distinct line, and then you can see some of the other things also. Now, before this was a lake, this would have looked more like, well, like this. So these mountains that we are here at right now might have been what the mountains that we're now seeing as islands looked like before the lake. So it's kind of interesting, but I'll just let you see. Those mountains at the furthest point back there are actually called the Muddy Mountains. And then the islands that we're seeing in here by the marina are called the Boulder Islands, with Sentinel Island back there kind of floating off in the distance by itself. Right in front of us, past the trail just a bit, is called the Hemingway Wall, and it is next to Fortification Hill. Now, we already saw the marina, but the harbor itself is also named Hemingway Harbor. So it's kind of interesting to know that they have carried that name through, and I'm sure that somewhere we will find the historic value of that name. Now, these two photos right here illustrate exactly what I was just talking about. This is Fortification Hill in 1929, before the Hoover Dam was built. This is it in 1985. You can see that all of this that once was barren and nothingness now is completely submerged underwater. So what else is below Lake Mead? There's lots of interesting things that we could conclude are in fact at the bottom of Lake Mead. There is in fact an old community that was actually engulfed by the waters once they flooded this area, and you can go and tour where it is, and when the lake is down, kind of like it is right now, you can actually see some of the cornerstones of some of the buildings. It is fascinating. Now, to my knowledge, there aren't any kind of Lake Lanier kind of stories, so I don't feel as though the lake itself is cursed or haunted or on top of any cemeteries, at least to my knowledge. But we all know that this was at one point in time Native American grounds, so it very well could be. That's something to think about when you get into water that you can't see the bottom of. Just saying. Let's keep going. We're here. This is Tunnel 1 right here, and I think you can see it's huge. But let me give you kind of a size comparison. I am 5'7", just so you guys know. Now, you know how at the beginning of the tunnel it said to not come out here during the summer months because it was way too hot? Well, that didn't matter when it came to construction. They didn't have a choice. So this is actually talking about how most of the work days were debilitating. They were over 100 degrees, and they had to go through the hard volcanic rock with jackhammers. They had falling rocks everywhere, swirling clouds of dust and sand, and also when they would use the blasts, it would be blinding almost. Now, with each time that they would pull things off of the walls, it had to go somewhere, so that meant somebody then had to cart it out of the actual tunnels. As you can see, this would be a very tedious task, but they worked round the clock, 3 shifts a day, and managed to clear all of the tunnels that are along this route in only 5 months. 5 months of round the clock, no days off work. That's how thick these things are. They are huge, guys. So huge. But of course, I'm going to show you an illustration of just how huge they are on the inside, because we are now entering Tunnel 1. See that way back there? That's far, right? Yeah, that's kind of far. Now, normally I would not have shown you the entire walk through, but I wanted you to see how big it was. This thing is huge, and it's just one of them. So yeah, massive, massive, massive. And let me show you what the walls that they were looking to go through actually looked like up close. This right here, this solid rock was what they had to go through. And as you can see, it is not super forgiving. It is not super easy to cut through. It has all of these different individual cutout pieces as a result of jackhammers and hard manual labor. And you can see this would not be a simple task. And even more so, they had to do it all the way up to the actual ceiling of this area. So this was a huge undertaking. I'm not sure exactly of those measurements. I'm hoping there's a sign somewhere, but wow, it's huge. Now, something else kind of interesting about this end though, is you'll notice that this has some structure and support beams right here as you're kind of going through the opening. I'm not sure if those were put here to secure it or if those were part of the original integrity of the structure. I'm not sure. Haven't found a sign for that one yet, guys. When I do though, you'll know. Okay, I knew it. If we stuck it out long enough, we would figure out what the timbers are for. It says here, the tunnels are unusually large. They're 18 feet wide. They look way bigger than that, but they are 27 feet high. And that's at the lower portions of the lower tunnels. There's a few of them that are a little bit taller. Trains could easily carry huge pieces of pipe and construction equipment through these though. And it says here that on this side that the original timbers were actually destroyed in a fire in 1990. So they had to create new ones, and they used shotcrete on the walls to give it the portal facing, but also to secure it a bit more along the way. See, this is a very different surface right here, but they did this to make sure that it was stable so that nothing bad could happen to us as we come through here. And so we can still come here for years to come. It looks like it also helps with the mitigation of the damage that people do when they come out here by doing graffiti, because they can more easily remove that kind of stuff from these walls than they could the rock walls. Makes sense. So let's go through this one. This is Tunnel 2. It appears after you get out of the entrance, the shotcrete kind of goes away and then it turns back into the original stone again. So that's kind of neat. It also said this tunnel is one that does, in fact, usually have bats. So I'm kind of looking, but not finding any. There are some signs that bats have been here though. How curious. What is this? I'm assuming additional support, and they can close these doors to make it more effective. Oh, okay, so this is just a container, but containers are very strong, so if something were to collapse, we would still be safe. I like that, actually. I do like that. Can you see what I see? I understand now why the container is there. That looks like it's having a little bit of a structural issue, so they're definitely trying to safeguard us just in case some more of that rock facing comes off. So yeah, that's probably pretty smart. Now, the really nice thing about this hike is you can do as much or as little as you would like. If you want to go all the way over to the Hoover Dam, you totally can. You can make a whole day of it. Otherwise, you can come to stops like this and just sit here, kick back, enjoy some nice cold water, and then also have a little lunch. It's wonderful, and I love this. And this trail is accessible to pretty much everybody as long as you can get out here. Now, I have seen some people in motorized chairs out here. I've also seen some people who are biking, and then I've seen people who have their strollers with their kids. So this is a very family-friendly trail. So definitely look into this one if you're coming out to the Vegas area. It is spectacular. Let's check out a few more of these views, and then I may leave the others as a little bit of a mystery to you so that you can tell me what you think and what you learned from the signs along the way. Again, I've done this entire trail before and it was fabulous. Each viewpoint is amazing and you see something a little bit different with each one. In fact, right after Tunnel 3 over here, that's where I like to kind of get off trail and go eat my lunch. It's my favorite place. That's what we did last time. And I am gonna go ahead and link that video, even though it's not my best work. It's an early video. I want you to check it out though so you can see where we ate lunch. Remember, everywhere that you go, there is something reminiscent of the Hoover Dam. And you can find all of these little hidden things. Like this is actually some of the cable that was actually used. It just goes to show that if you keep your eyes open, you can find interesting things everywhere. Now, just a word of caution though, if you do find something, you cannot pick it up and take it with you. That is actually against the law. Like a big no. So just kind of leave it there for others to find also, and you can enjoy it by taking photos of it and taking it home that way. As you look down on this piece of Lake Mead, what do you see? Ask yourself, what am I looking at? Well, early in the 30s, this was actually known as Ragtown. Ragtown was a very difficult place to live in, to say the least. You would have been looking down on wooden cabins, really tattered, beat up tents, and even cardboard box dwellings. In the 30s, this was where people landed along the way during the Great Depression. Their makeshift structures housed hundreds of families who had first come here. It was because of these civilizations that were in such tattered, torn state that actually some of the communities around us have sprung up. The inception of Boulder City began as people needed a place to stay and jobs were being filled by the Hoover Dam project. This is an illustration of what it might have been like. There was very little escape from the sun. There was no infrastructure set up. There were no schools. There were no real community kind of centers or anything like that that people could go to. It just looked like a barren wasteland of very little. And they said that the ants at that time were the big deal. They were huge and hungry and they would beat you to your dinner. And so this particular area that we're looking at now, the part of Lake Mead that we see where people go and have fun and do recreational things, was once this center for absolute devastation and desolation. But there was hope, there was hope, there was hope. As people started getting more and more jobs and working for the Hoover Dam and starting to make a little bit more money, they were rewarded handsomely. At one point in time, it was said that people were making up to $4. Again, go watch the Hoover Dam video, you can learn more about that. But when that started happening, people started being able to pull themselves up out of Ragtown and move over to the adjacent Boulder City, and then eventually to Las Vegas. And I think that coming on a trail like this, where you can see that full circle moment of how the industry made it to the Hoover Dam, what the people were having to endure, and then now that there is this recreational space, it's just fascinating. And that's why I wanted to bring you guys out here today. I thought that you would appreciate it the way that I appreciate it. So yeah, I'm gonna again leave the other tunnels for you guys right down this path so you can go check them out, because there's more signs like this. But I definitely wanted to share that full circle moment with you first. And now we're gonna head back to Dimples, I think. This has been a fabulous day and it feels so good outside today. It's still in the 60s and there's a slight breeze. It's absolutely the perfect time for hiking. We made it back to Dimples and this was absolutely amazing. Now, if you are wanting to come out to check out this trail, you don't actually have to enter fully into the Lake Mead recreation area. In fact, just past the visitor center before the main entry gate is where this trail begins. Now, if you are wanting to pick it up on the Hoover Dam side, of course you will have to go through a security checkpoint, but you know, it is what it is. I suggest coming from the Lake Mead recreation side because it's just a better parking situation overall, and you don't have to kind of go quite as far out to get there. Super, super, super fun and well worth it. Remember guys, we are not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, and hikes like this are a great way to kind of get some cardio going and also see some amazing things. Definitely a good time. If you've enjoyed today's video, make sure that you leave a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and check out all of the future content on the channel. Till next time guys, bye!